Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? There you go. It's the very last drop, but it's the tastiest drop of my entire day because I have truly been a slug unintentionally, right? It was not my intent. I had plans to motor 100 miles an hour. We have building inspections and right, I have things to get done. And not only on top of that is for myself in my movement forward in trying to map out a little bit of a life for myself. I do realize that I can have my own little bit of controlling narcissistic tendencies towards myself, that I can be my own sled driver, mush, Cindy, let's go. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, in creating the best human being that I possibly can, I was invited to this party, I think, because of my love for life, my creativity in taking my piece of the pie, right? The biggest piece, if at all possible, and reveling in it. And, as of late, sharing in that. But as I move forward, right, I need to stack up that evidence. I need to stack up those lessons because that's where the belief lies, right? Because, even me for myself, I am somebody who really does need to see the evidence, right? It is in that idea, believe it to see it, right? And, I really truly do need to see the evidence. It was not in my programming to naturally digest some of the things, not that I'm being asked to digest it, but it's important for me to do my very best at digesting it because I understand not only is that where a lot of my problems lie, that's where a lot of my solutions lie. And how do I know that? Because I see the evidence in my own life. Today I had big plans, right? It was kind of that mush mush kind of thing. And as I moved into my day, I says, no, I don't think so. It's a day off day today. We're going to enjoy the day. No, I didn't say I was going to enjoy the day. It was actually a lot of guilt and shame throughout the day because I was trying to be motivated, right? Get up, do the laundry, get up, do the dishes, right? Clean, wash the floors, go for a little bit of walk. I did manage to get out for a little bit, but it was just a little bit. And even that didn't refresh me, right? And usually going out for a short walk, it does refresh me. It does give me a fresh start to choose something different. And I didn't choose anything at all different. I just came right back and I just carried on where I left off, in honest truth. And I have to give myself that bit of understanding that, probably needed it. I did. I didn't even work that hard in this set of work days that puts the roof over my head. And it was probably because of these, call it mogmire, because that's what it feels like. It feels like going through big, heavy mud, right? It's like a big mud bath. And right, it's just, you can't even walk because just the weight of it all is just right? It's just holding you down. And sometimes, in all that effort that we use up in trying to even just take one step to inch through it just a little bit, it just seems like, well, a losing battle, doesn't it? It seems like putting in a lot of effort for something that you're not going to get any movement out of at all. And so at some point, you have to call out, what would my dad call it? George. He had a name. He'd say, my dad loved to tickle us and he'd pin us down and he would tickle. And sometimes tickling would be so bad, it would almost be like pain because you're just trapped and you have to endure it, right? And he'd get great enjoyment out of tickling us. And what I was going to say about that was, I lost track of what I was going to say about that, but it was going to be something amazing, and maybe it will come back to me. Maybe it won't. Hello, silent wing addict. Me and my wife are in a fight right now. I'm sorry to hear that, dear. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything that I could do to help give you some clarity on what's going on, or maybe a little bit of a some advice from a woman's point of view? Even though I can't remember even having any struggles with fights with my husband. But in truth, I think if we had aired out some of our disagreements or some of that friction, that it probably would have served us a lot better. Sometimes in that stress of fighting with our spouse, we can find a little bit of resolution. Sometimes it's just a little bit of understanding somebody else's point of view. And sometimes it's just somebody, right, that had their feelings hurt because you didn't notice, right? That you didn't notice something that might have hurt their feelings, or the opposite way around, right? Not saying that she was the one that was the victim in this. It always takes two to tango in a disagreement, right? But who likes that stress of a fight, right? I have to say, do your very best to, right, smooth it over the best that you can, so you're not at the very least going to bed angry in that, right? But I do believe that a little bit of friction can surface up resolutions. I think that's, a point that me and my husband, right, possibly could have worked on, was a little bit of our communications, and maybe we would have been better friends than what we are. We loved each other greatly, but we were very different from each other. We were very different from each other. It was like two people living separate lives, but it was that love that kept us together. And I think sometimes if we were able to air out those grievances without thinking that we were going to devastate the other, that maybe it might have helped us, right? Maybe I'd still be married right now, right? So when it comes to marriage advice, I don't know how much I could give you, but I can say I did pick well, right? And, I did marry somebody who did love me and did care for me. And even though it didn't work out in the end, you know, it was an amazing experience, right? And if I had it to do all over again, you know, I'm not sure if I would, but if I did do it all again, if I had that opportunity to do it all again, I don't know. I wouldn't pick fights, but I think that maybe I would have been a little bit braver about expressing my needs in the marriage, right? Rather than stumbling over myself to make sure that my partner was comfortable, right? And not airing what my needs truly were. I just expected, right? And maybe this is what's going on, right? Because usually it's because we're not giving the care and attention to those partners when they think that they need that little bit extra, right? My husband, he cared for me and watched over me very, very well. And sometimes, in our disillusionment of the moment, our own problems or the problems that we're bringing to that partnership, it can um it can blind us to what truly is important. And if I had to do it over again, right, I'm not saying I would pick a fight, pick an argument with my husband, but I would have been more vocal. I would have wanted to talk more about possibly some of the issues that I didn't even know were playing out in our relationship. And, maybe I could have done a better job. Maybe, like I said, we'd still be married right now. Thank you for popping in. Sorry that you are having disagreements, but I have to say though, right? Disagreements and that conflict can be helpful. Now, not to the point where you're throwing things at each other and you go in for the jugular where you actually want to hurt each other and you end up saying things that you can't take back, right? And because those are the most dangerous kind, because those are the bites that will make it so that you don't want to try. You don't want to try to make it better, right? And we shut down, and sometimes we turn our backs on these relationships. So what I would say is, right, if you feel bad that you guys are arguing, I don't know, maybe you can give her a little kiss before you roll over and go to sleep. Yeah, that's if you're not in the doghouse. That's if you're not, and I'm not smiling, but right? This is your wife, right? This is your wife, and fighting is a natural aspect of clearing the air in some things that might be stopping you from, right, moving forward a little bit, right? Okay, you guys, it is angel card, right? Oh, it's not angel card, right? I haven't named this deck of cards that I'm doing now, but what I'm doing is I'm picking 54 powerful words. Each week we pick a word and we delve into it for the whole week, looking at it in different perspectives and seeing if we can pull a lesson out of it. I know I've been getting lessons out of these words that we pick. We're on our 28th word. We are officially halfway there, unless we get one of those words that we've done already. And in that case, we'll decide in the moment whether we're just going to talk about it for this evening and go on to a new word tomorrow, or if we're going to dig into it for the whole week. I will know when we pick the word, right? Whether it needs to be rehashed. Just like I knew last week, this word that we got again, forgiveness. I knew I didn't do a good job. It was one of my first shows before I got really comfortable in these powerful words and trying to figure out how we were going to present it and work it within the show, right? So I knew that I kind of bypassed, and that's the word that I'm going to say, some of these important aspects of a lesson. And hopefully that lesson doesn't pop up again. If it does, we'll have to get into it again, because it just means that I got it wrong. But like I said, if we get one of these words for the second time again, I suspect it's going to happen. We're halfway there, and right, there's a lot of words still to pick, and I suspect we'll get some of these words again. Okay, So tonight it's the first perspective. We're going to delve into the word. And the first thing that comes into my mind is what we're going to talk about. Here we go. Here's the word: goals. That's a good word. Goals is how I make a lot of my movement forward. You know, being in the middle, there are a lot of blind spots in my life, right? Right? To each of us who are in the middle, it's just like, you have two parents and you get some chromosomes from your mom, some chromosomes from your dad. But you don't know if you're going to get your dad's blue eyes or you're going to get your mom's brown eyes. It's kind of a crapshoot, a mix, right? So when you're in the middle, right, there you do get aspects of, right, that human part of ourselves, and you get different aspects of those other parts of yourself. And for each person, it's going to be different depending, this is my belief, right, depending on your goals. Now this is something I haven't talked about before, but seeing we have this word goals, maybe today would be a good way to start this off, and maybe we can expand and continue on it, because it is something I haven't shared before. But it's one of my beliefs, right? One of my beliefs is that, we have lived many, 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 many lifetimes, I would say hundreds, thousands, possibly, a lot of us. It takes all kinds to make the world, and that's the truth. But I think for my kind, right? And who's to say what my kind is, right? People come in and out of my life, and I get reflections back of the person that I am when I see it mirrored in somebody else. But like I said, like two parents, that you get a mix of those chromosomes, and like that mix of the the mother and the father, I think with the soul and the human, you get that same kind of idea. And that's because of our lives, our dreams, our goals, right? That the very best of us, right, comes to the table. And that's the differencing in the tiering of where everybody is in their movement forward, because not all of us have had those experiences of the highs of having some of that greatness, right? And in those blank spots in me, right? Those blind spots of me, that maybe there was never that experience of some of that greatness that would give me that strength, that knowledge, that leadership in that topic. Now, what's a good example? Good example of that. Okay, if I dreamed and my goal was to be a famous writer, right? But epigenetically, going back, maybe Jane Austen might have been a relative, right? And I could become, in my setting my goals, have some of those great aspects of myself, great aspects of those other parts of me, right? Jane Austen might come surfacing up in me and help me to be that great writer, right? Does that make sense here? I have to maybe give you another example, like in my own in my own life, in my I'm trying just right off, give me something good here. Just give me something good so that it might make a good example. My love for Mother Nature, my love for being out on the road on myself, by myself, in reflection, in my own thoughts, right? I know I spend a lot of time with myself in my own thoughts, right? It's something I've always done. I don't remember a time that I didn't spend, and I suspect, it's a lot of that reclusiveness, right? Maybe it's starting off with the invisible friends when we're little kids or something, but I do spend a lot of time with myself, and in spending it out in Mother Nature, it would kind of make me feel that possibly I have somebody who was great in that, right? Like, say, if Jeremiah Johnson was a real person, that possibly he was my great, 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 great grandfather, and he was an expert, right? Or having this love that I have for this country, and being able to go and explore, jump in my car or jump in a rental, right? And take off out into the back roads and out to the back country. That possibly, is it possible that one of those characters, one of those great characters with that experience, right? Because I'm teaching myself, right? But a lot of it is naturally inclined in me. So is it possible that at one point I had a voyageur as a great, great, great grandfather, and in my love and in my goal setting, right? The very best of me that loves that, where that experience is, allows that this part of me gets to surface, right? This this history gets to meet up with the present and make a little bit of movement possibly for the future. This is the way I think. I also, if you could see on this shelf, let me grab this right here. I believe I have a little bit of Napoleon in me. I do, right? The way he contemplated. Look at how he's in his thoughts, right? He's could be totally surrounded by people who give him advice, his generals, his right. He could be surrounded by these people, but look at his face. Look at him with his maps, right, at his feet. And I'm trying to do this in a opposite direction, right? But he's in heavy contemplation, and you could just see it in his face. And this is a aspect of myself that I do this. It's not like, he was a great strategist and he did it for war, but he had this idea in his mind that he didn't wait for the trouble to reach him, right? He liked to stir the pot himself. It's a little bit different than what I do. But in my goal setting, and I in those parts where I'm trying to bring the best of me to the surface, maybe, in this strategizing, and I've been doing a lot of strategizing, right? Trying to come to, well, in those goal settings, trying to map out a life for myself, a life that would make me happy, right? And right, I'm in my thoughts, I'm contemplating, and so maybe some of those best parts of me, right? Maybe that's the Napoleon, and he's working on it, right? And when he does, right, just like the other day in my dragon story, like these serendipities and these breadcrumbs, and right, they'll come to the surface and I'll catch them, and I'll know what direction to go in. This is my beliefs. And, it for me, it makes sense because, I look at other people and the things that they love to do, right? And I think, well, who was in their past? Who were their great great grandfathers or right down epigenetically in their bloodline that were great at what they at I'm just going to put this here so I don't make a mistake because that's the last thing I want to do is break him. He was one of my great best scores. I got him for $1. I paid $1 for him. He had chips and right, he wasn't in good shape, but I didn't realize that even in the shape that he was in and right with the repairs that he has, he's still worth $3,000. He's still worth $3,000. If he was in good shape, $6,000 to $10,000, right? I know a good deal when I see one. And I'm getting better and better at it all the time. But maybe there's an aspect of myself because I love the thrifting. I just don't work in a thrift store. I actually love thrifting. I love finding scores. I furnish my home with only thrifted things. I don't buy new anymore. My groceries and a few personal items, right? Everything else is thrifted and I love my apartment. I love the things that I purchase, right? And right? And I think to myself, I'm pretty good at it. But what aspects of myself, who was it in my past, right? That is coming to the surface now because I'm goal setting, right? I'm goal setting. So if I'm goal setting, right? These are the characters that have that experience. I mean, things are happening in my life all the time and I think, how did I know to do that? Right? It's kind of like, I saw something really really neat. It was a horse. It was I'm trailing off a little bit, but maybe this is the experience to kind of signal to people that we don't pay attention and yet we have these instincts in us. I watched this YouTube video of a horse, a stallion, giving birth to its foal. And this, it was a difficult pregnancy and or delivery. And this foal was halfway out of its mother. It was halfway out of its mother. And it was already suckling off its mother. It was already, right, going for the milk. How did the horse know that? It's not even fully out of its mother's vagina, right? And it's already looking to suckle halfway out. It's already upside down and trying to suckle off its mother, and it's not even fully born yet. How did that fool know, right? How do cats know to use cat litter boxes? Right? Like, and it's not just even if you're looking at the suckling, like all animals do that. But how do we know that? It's epigenetically, it's just in us from one lifetime after another lifetime until it imprints on us, right? So we got goals this week. It's super interesting to have this word because, right, it's what I do. I hang with the entrepreneurs, but, I focus on the empaths and the highly sensitives because they're the ones that have such a difficult time when it comes to entrepreneurship. How do I know that? Because I have difficulties in the entrepreneurship, right? Even to the point of, right, making this movement in my brand, but just making the movement from how I feel from one moment to another because it's constantly changing. And once I think I have a grasp on what I want to do, right? life picks me up, swings me around a little bit, and then I find myself in a different spot, right? Which offers up the opportunity for another part of me to surface and to help me move through that or relax in that, be comfortable in that expertise that's a part of me, right? But instinctively, right? Not knowing, not having the experience to know that that's what I should do, but still knowing somehow what I should have to do. So in my goal setting, and right, we know Cindy likes to reverse engineer. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about reverse engineering tomorrow. But we got the word goals this week. I love that one because we've got goals for this year, you guys, right? This is my year, right? So let's make a little bit of movement through that. Let's see who and what can come to the surface and assist in that because I do, right? We all have our beliefs, and in that respect of knowing that it takes all kinds to make the world, we have to know that all those kinds are going to believe a little bit differently, right? But we're all in the same storm, right? We're all in the same storm, but we're using different tools. We all have different, right, directions and destinations, but we're going to do our very best, right, to make a little bit of movement. And for me, right, it's just setting a goal and moving towards that. And then as things get added in, as those ingredients, as those experiences, as those conversations, right, we adjust, right, until we manifest whatever we set our hearts to or our minds to, right? We're planning a big trip, and already I've got hiccups, and the hiccups that I've got is I don't like that crazy heat. I don't like that crazy heat, and I don't want to go to Arizona and Utah in September because it's going to be over 100 degrees even at nighttime when you're sleeping. That's not going to be a comfortable experience. I would much rather go in April or May. So that idea for me is in my goal setting, do I make a rush and rash decision to do this year, April, May, or do we drag it out for more than a year and go next year? Or do we suck it up and just trust that we are going to have amazing time on this trip, whether it's right, warm, cold, raining, windy, or just super, super unbearably hot. In our goal setting, maybe by the end of the week, we could make that snap, right? Maybe we can make that snap. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We got the word goal for this week. We'll be back tomorrow with perspective. I was going to say a different perspective, but I don't know if what I talked about tonight was a perspective, but it was a truth for me because I do believe, right? Because there's no point in bringing epigenetically, that character that's not going to serve me, right? That archbishop, my great 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 grandfather, right? Who's an archbishop, great leader, many answers to many questions probably that I have. But in my goal setting, if I'm not going to make use out of any of that, why would I have that part of the character's surface, right? I want to make sure that the best is helping me along the way. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye.